Hey y'all, it's me, Lady Isis, and I'm back with another video. This particular video is it's like tea. It ain't tea, it's very spiritual. So for my spiritual cousins, this is for y'all. I want to talk about the time I went to jail, what led me to going to jail, what was the reason, and how it was a humiliation ritual by the Matrix. Everything was very strategic, everything was very planned, and the people around me were used as forces to cause me to be humiliated and to stop me from reaching higher consciousness.
A little different than all the rest. A quite old-fashioned where
Now, I haven't had much time to really sit and talk about this experience because it was so traumatic for me. This was the first time I had ever been in a situation like this that led me to being detained, placed under arrest, being detained, and then later going to the county jail where this attack took place. And as I sat with this experience, like meditating on how I really felt about it and the hindsight, like the bird's eye view of why this situation took place. And Spirit was basically showing me that this was a humiliation ritual. And then the energy of Lilith, which I have this here with me. This to me represents wisdom. It represents, you see the owls here, then you have the snakes, and then if you know anything about the energy of Lilith, Lilith handles or deals with the shadows. And if you go back in my content, you will see where a lot of times where I gave spiritual messages, I refer to myself as the messenger of darkness, because I deal in the shadows, which means I deal in the dark. The things that wish to be hidden, I uncover and I shed light. So I work together with very light and dark forces in order to bring truth and divine and cosmic law and order, if I had to put it into words. So the energy of Lilith began to show me the reason behind this situation. So the day that I was arrested, it was April 29th, 2024. And this was an ultimate paradigm shift for me. I was arrested and detained for 72 hours. And during that 72 hours, I was not able to shower. And I was locked in a room the size of maybe 2 normal size, average size bathrooms, maybe 3, because the room could hold up to about 12, 13 women. At the time, it was only about 7, 8, or 9 of us. I can't remember the exact number, but it was a lot of us in this cell. And they had well, let me go back. They arrested me. We went to the detention center. I was, checked or whatever. They checked everywhere under my breath. The whole process was humiliating in a sense. They had to check your private areas and everything. So fast forward to being separated from the women who've committed felonies to the women who have committed misdemeanors. I was on the felony side because the way that the situation took place and the weapon of choice that I chose to use to fight back during this attack was considered a felony offense. Now, I was told up to about 12 to maybe 12, 13 women can be held in that confined jail space cell. Okay, there was an open area with a toilet, a box, like a small brown box in the corner next to the toilet where trash could be thrown there. There was one sink, and this was an open space for everybody to see you use the bathroom. I do remember them having like a brick wall, maybe 4x6, I don't know, in front of the toilet. That was your little privacy that you had. And 3 times a day we were fed. So that was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was a turkey sandwich, and I believe it had cheese on it, and most of the time it was cold. You were allowed to get regular white saltine crackers, as many as you want. And they had a juice called the yellow juice or yellow juice. There were about 6 benches in this cell, in an open floor space. So when we laid our cots down, and the cots were as thin as about 2 inches, each morning they woke us up at about 6:37 a.m. to get this cot, and about in the evening time, about 7-8 p.m., you're allowed to get your cot back. So throughout the whole day that you're there, you're pretty much either sitting on the floor or you are sitting on a bench or laying down on this bench that's about this thick, okay, about that thick, and you lay down if you need to. Covers were not provided, and obviously pillows were not provided because those things will probably be considered a privilege. If you see me looking down or over to the sides, because I have notes, and I want to make sure that I don't forget anything as I tell this story. So as I'm there with these women in this cell, there is a phone there. I think it was 2 phones, and we have up until about 11 p.m. to use this phone. Before I got arrested, I was actually headed to work. So I was dropping my 2-year-old daughter off at the time. I was dropping her off, and well, she was 1 at the time. She was turning 2 in July. So I was headed to work. So I still had on my scrubs, and I had did my hair real pretty. It was nice and curled or whatever, and I was getting ready to go do a 12-hour shift. There were 2 synchronistic numbers that I seen, and it was 4444, and I had seen 111 on my way to the location where the assault took place. That's significant because what I'm gonna do throughout this story is tell you the synchronicities that I seen and my thoughts about the humiliation ritual that the Matrix perform on the chosen ones who are seeking higher consciousness and coming into their sovereignty. Okay, the black sheep, the ones who are exiled, considered an exile because they're a free thinker. And the whole purpose of this is also to shed light on the energy of Lilith, because Lilith was the one who was also exiled for not succumbing to the oppressive systems in patriarchy, and she was also known to be the first wife of Adam, but she was rejected because of her free thinking mind and her unwillingness to submit to Adam. And that's when Eve came into play. But that whole Christian Bible story is all twisted up and crazy. So they had 2 phones. The first people that I could think to contact was my children. So my daughter my daughter, I needed to find out where my daughter was and where she needed to be. And to my two oldest sons, they were at football practice and they was headed back home, because normally when I head to work, my oldest son will keep my youngest son while I work. And they had no clue where I was at, and I didn't know my oldest son number by heart. So I called the first person number that I knew by heart, which was my mother. And for those who don't know, me and my mother has a very estranged relationship. She is the narcissist in my life who has been my biggest opposition. And we don't have the best relationship at all. So I had to reach out to her after being no contact with her for months. And I had to explain to her a little of what I could over the phone without giving out too much information, because obviously the phones are tapped. You're in jail or being detained. They record the conversations. So I immediately told her, hey, you need to go get my children and go get my daughter, because she was at the house where this incident took place. And I needed to make sure that my children were together and that they were safe. She answered the phone that one time, and after that, I didn't hardly hear from her anymore. She would barely pick up the phone for me to talk to my children. I also was able to memorize my grandmother's number, and I was able to communicate with her throughout this entire process, although she is a covert narcissist in my life as well. I'm currently no contact with my family as of today, December 3rd, 2024. Now, there were also women that came in and gone. Like, throughout the 72 hours, the whole purpose is to see if the state is going to pick up this case or not. So there were women that stayed maybe a few hours or the full 72 hours like I did. And a lot of times after the 72 hours, they make bail. They be released because it's a detention center. They can't hold you after 72 hours. But in my case, I had court on the third day, and they waited to the 0 hour to tell me that, after finding out at court that I had $100,000 bail, and that they were going to ship me off to county.